Welcome, listener. This is Sebastian Nothwell here today with RK Ashwick, author of the Lutesong trilogy, which will soon conclude with The Spirit's Curse. Hello, RK.
Hi.
So, what is The Spirit's Curse, and what can readers expect to find within its pages?
So, The Spirit's Curse is the final book in the Lutesong trilogy, which follows Emry, a bard, Aspen, a forest spirit, and Cal, a scientific spirit research scholar person, as they save the day in various forms. It begins with The Stray Spirit. The second book is The Spirit Well, which came out last March. And we are finally wrapping it up with The Spirit's Curse this May. This one it's very much, as I was talking with a beta reader, it's very much an Aspen-focused story. It's very much their story. So in The Stray Spirit, we have just Emry's point of view. In The Spirit Well, it's Emry and Cal. And in The Spirit's Curse, it's Emry and Aspen, which is very fun. Aspen has a very fun point of view.
So this is the first book where we get Aspen's point of view directly.
Yes.
Oh, excellent. And given that they're a non-binary, non-human, recently awoken spirit, I can only imagine what a fun way to look at the world that is.
They are a lot of fun. They're both like a little naive and also very wise in different ways. They deeply love Emry and Cal. At the same time, they just attach to things so easily. So they deeply love other spirits, and they love being social, and they love talking, and they love meeting new people. It's for better and for worse. In this book, it's kind of for worse. It really kind of becomes like, Aspen is having fun, just kind of being a socialite. They don't need to eat, they don't need to sleep. They really can just do whatever they want. They got best friends in really high places. But they really have to start looking towards kind of what they do with their life, which is maybe more existential than, I don't know, it's a little existential, I'll be honest.
A little bit answering the question of, you're immortal, now what?
Honestly, yes. Yeah.
I do like the notion of, I love to party, and because of who I am, the party never has to end. But what if responsibility?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And this isn't a spoiler. This is, I think, both in the blurb and in like the first 3 chapters. There's a spirit who confronts Aspen in kind of a violent way because he is not happy with this kind of awakened immortality. He kind of is looking ahead to the future and he feels what he's missing, which is just like being able to chill in his grove. And he's like, I want that back. Give it to me. Tell me how. And the whole thing about the book is Aspen doesn't know how. Aspen doesn't know how to have the spirits go back to sleep, which is a sort of like natural stasis for them through the events of book 1. They kind of woke up other spirits in the process of warning them about the, issue of the day. In book 2, we met more spirits who had kind of woken up and are starting to socialize. And so in book 3, it's a couple years later, we're seeing the aftermath of that, where all the spirits are getting together and socializing. But a lot of them are just as short-sighted as Aspen, where they're like, oh yeah, this is cool for now. Eventually I'll go back to sleep. And Shrike is really the one who brings it to a head and is like, no, I want to go back to sleep now. Tell me how. And Aspen has to admit, not just to Shrike, but to all of the other spirits at this festival, that they don't know how. And that does honestly generate kind of an existential crisis with the other spirits. They're like, well, we do want to go back to sleep eventually. So like, how do we, like, you need to find this answer for us. And that's kind of the impetus for the whole story, is Aspen's like, oh, I do have the spirits look to me as their leader. I do have this responsibility to make sure that they are navigating this new world as best we can, really. And part of that is getting them the answers that they want.
Well, I don't know about everyone else, but I'm excited for this adventure.
Thank you. Me too, now that it's done.
So how much of The Spirit's Curse did you have plotted out when you first began the Lutesong trilogy?
Okay, real talk, none of it. I had vague ideas on like, oh, this kind of makes sense for where Aspen is going. Oh, I should really kind of address the immortality thing. I wanted to get into an old growth forest. I wanted there to be spirits who weren't all like Aspen, weren't all, happy and willing to help. But that's kind of it. It's not an approach I would take in the future. And for my other series, I did try to plan it a little bit more. But even that, it was very vague. And so I think I personally, as a writer, would have an easier time of, foreshadowing and laying the seeds earlier on in the series if I had planned it out. That said, there's some accidental foreshadowing in the previous books that I kind of picked up on in rereads and was like, oh, okay, I'm going to weave that in. But of course, it's always easier if you do it from the get-go.
There is a lot of enjoyment in the discovery of finding accidental themes and motifs in your own work. You're like, oh, I guess I was working through something, huh?
In this particular case, it's less of an emotional insight into myself and more like, oh, that's a cool thing that I happen to mention. I'm going to lean into that. Granted, the rival books, that is emotional insight, and that was painful. Don't look at it further. Don't look behind the curtain.
So what most excited you about writing The Spirit's Curse?
Okay, two things. One was Aspen's POV, just seeing like how their experience as a forest spirit flavors, how they observe things. Like, would they use a lot of kind of nature metaphors and similes to explain their surroundings and explain what they're seeing and what they're feeling? And then also humanisms, idioms, and other little like gestures and things that they've picked up naturally, but they don't fully understand the meaning behind it. So there's a couple things that they do that the other spirits are like, well, what did you just do? Or what does that mean? And they're like, oh, I actually have no idea. And then they just move on.
When you learn a new language based on vibes alone.
Yeah. There's one where Aspen is talking to Shrike and goes, a copper for your thoughts. And Shrike's like, what? And Aspen's like, I don't know. I don't have a copper for you. The humans just say it. What are you thinking about? So that was very fun. It's very fun to write someone with that kind of POV because they see things so differently from Emry and Cal. At the same time, they mirror Emry and Cal a lot, whether consciously or unconsciously. So there are a couple moments where I have Aspen go, I need to be confident here. I'm going to imitate Emry right now. Or I need to sound authoritative. I'm going to channel Cal right now. And then there are other moments where all three of them mirror each other unconsciously, which is just very fun and a nice little thing because they've been friends for years now and they've been together basically like every day. They all live together. So they've definitely absorbed aspects of each other, which was very nice. The other part that I was very excited about is unfortunately kind of a spoiler, but it's related to, I'll just say it's related to Emry's magic.
Ooh.
He starts developing magic of his own in the Spirit Well, based off all of the, and sorry, this is kind of a spoiler for Spirit Well, based off his repeated possessions with Aspen. That starts to really like rub off on him, which kind of freaks him out a little bit, but there has been a bit of a time jump between Spirit Well and Spirit's Curse. So it's given him time to practice with it. It's given both of them time to strategize. How does Emry uses magic without these repeated possessions, because that is dangerous for Emry. And so they've kind of gotten through a lot of that, and it allows Emry to be a little bit more independent of Aspen, which is actually really important to the story because it is all about Aspen's future. And is that with Emry and Cal, or is it not with Emry and Cal? And how do Emry and Cal deal with that?
Both of these aspects sound like really exciting payoff for 3 books worth of character development.
I freaking hope so, man. Writing trilogies is really difficult. Like you just sit there and you're like, I don't know if this is going to be a satisfying payoff. I don't know what the readers are expecting from a book 3 like this, and there's always that like imposter syndrome and author doubt, like they're going to read it and they're going to hate it, or I, completely misjudged what the readers want. But you know what? At some point at the end of the day, you have to be like, whatever, this is the book I want to write. It's too late now. It's done. We're just gonna keep our fingers crossed and honestly move on to the next project.
Oh man, it's all we can do.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the challenges and rewards in crafting a satisfying conclusion to the trilogy?
Oh man, the challenge and the reward, they're the same thing. Because it was the middle of the frickin' book, and if you've seen any of my rants on Tumblr, I will often rant about Act 2A because I hate it so much. I always get to Act 2A and I just get so stuck because it drags on for way too long and it's before the exciting midpoint and you have to set everything up. And after the midpoint, you're like, all right, we rollin', we goin', we ballin'. Act 2A is a minefield and a sludge fest, and I hate it so much. And maybe one day I will get over it. But anyway, for this specific book, Act 2A was the trio getting to the location where most of the book takes place, and that's a little village in the old growth forest called Raven's Rest. Again, this isn't really a spoiler because it's in the blurb, it's going to be on the back of the book, but there is a forest spirit in the old growth forest who is trying to basically grow right through the town. It has grown through basically the northern half of it. There's a really wide river that has stopped it. And so there's a smattering, just a handful of people on the southern side who are like, no, get your hands off my village. We want this village back. And so they are trying to figure out how to get their village back when Emry, Cal, and Aspen arrive. Unfortunately, that forest spirit is the same spirit that Aspen wants to talk to get answers. So that's a fun time for all of them. But when I initially went in to writing this story, I was like, well, I know the beginning, I know the ending. I'll just figure out Raven's Rest as I go, right? Smash cut to me crying over my laptop because no, it did not magically come to me. It took a lot of iterations to really get Raven's Rest to where it is now. But as a reward, I'm very happy with where Raven's Rest is now. I really had to whittle it down to there's a whole village that has remained and is fighting against Yarrow to there are just a few lucky villagers, and really getting to drill down into each of those villagers, their relationship to each other, their relationship to Demir, who is Emry's manager, who is, kind of guiding them into this old growth forest and has a past with this village. It all became easier the more I took away people, because then I could really drill down and get in on like the specificity of these characters. Now I think it's very fun, but getting there took much longer than I expected, and honestly was pretty painful.
It sounds like what you ended up with has much more like immediate emotional stakes because you managed to make it very personal to just a very few characters.
Yeah, that's the hope. Is that they really resonate, and their emotional connections to the situation, to Demir, to what happened with their past, all of that hopefully should resonate a lot more, particularly since that's the location where most of the book takes place. So it really did need to make an impact.
Honestly, my favorite kind of stakes.
Thank you.
So where and when can folks read The Spirit's Curse for themselves?
The book is releasing on May 26th, so that'll be Amazon, it'll be Barnes & Noble, it'll be distributed by just like all my other books. And then it'll also be on Campfire with 3 extra pieces of art just for that book. If you get the whole trilogy on Campfire, that means you get 9 extra pieces of art, which is pretty cool. And then I am also uploading all my books to Itch, so those will also be there. And just like with Stray Spirit and Spiritwell, pre-orders will come with a bookmark and a sticker. And this time, I think it'll be a digital short story.
Excellent. There's so much to get excited for.
So much.
And where can folks follow you for updates on all of the above?
You can find me at rkashwick.com or on Instagram at rkashwickbooks. I've got a newsletter. Usually the newsletter is the first to get notifications on pre-orders, advanced reader copies, cover reveals, and of course what's coming next. So in the fall, that'll be the conclusion to the Side Quest Rose series and some future projects.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us, and I look forward to having another roundtable with you soon.